We shall discuss Legally Dad in this video. This mini-series chronicles the story of the narrative of a financially strained orphan who cares for her 8-year-old sister while juggling part-time work. One day, a 28-year-old guy appears in front of her. By signing a contract, you are volunteering to be her father. Will she accept the opportunity to improve her and her sister's lives? Will she reject it and continue to battle on her own? In Legally Dad, we'll find out. Legally Dad opens with introducing a girl called Kim Ah-young, who lives in a house with her younger sister. Apartment that is basic, since their parents died a few years ago. Ah-young and her younger sister have been orphans. Ah-young, who is just 23 years old, must fight to support herself, as well as her 8-year-old sister due to a lack of an exceptional educational background. She just works at a coffee shop part-time. Ah-young often falls behind on his flat rent due to a lack of funds. As a result, the apartment's owner threatens to evict Ah-young and her sister. If they fail to pay the rent, Ah-young then needs to figure out how to earn extra money to pay off the loan. On her way to work, Ah-young unintentionally stumbles across her younger sister. Danbai is arguing with two little females. They are really making fun of Danbai for not having a father. Ah-young instantly separates them and attempts to console Danbai. Therefore, her sister is no longer depressed. When Ah-young arrives at work, she informs everyone about her concerns. To Joo-ho, a young guy, who has been her closest buddy for almost 7 years. After hearing our narrative, Joo-ho offers to let Ah-young and Danbai remain at his home instead of paying rent. Ah-young, on the other hand, respectfully refuses the invitation since she does not want to bother Joo-ho. The scene then shifts to Danbai standing at the restaurant window. Then inside, where a tiny child is dining with her father. Because her acts are deemed upsetting to the restaurant's patrons, a male employee comes out and scolds Danbai while angrily urging her to leave. However, a guy called Sul Yusang appeared out of nowhere and protected Danbai. Yusang then walks over to Danbai and graciously invites her to lunch at the restaurant. Proposition Sangs is accepted by Danbai. Danbai tells Yusang after lunch what made her gaze at the. It wasn't because of her diet, but because of her father. Danbai tells Yusang that she is pregnant, is an orphan who longs to have a father at her side. When Yusang hears this, he is astonished and feels sad for Danbai. That night, Danbai tells Ah-young about her encounter with Yusang, who is amazed that someone so kind takes her sister to lunch, despite the fact that he is unfamiliar with her. Several days later, Yusang seems to arrive at Office Young's and propose a bargain. As a well-established guy, Yusang is prepared to meet all of Ah-young and Dan requirements, buys, and provide financial assistance. If they both agree to be their daughters, Yusang then handed Ah-young the agreement letter. He offered her time to consider his offer before signing the contract. That evening, Ah-young tells Joo-ho about the deal, who seems astonished at the abrupt appearance of an unknown guy, and want to financially support Ah-young and Danbai. Joo-ho, who is not readily trusted by others, subsequently counsels Ah-young to decline the deal, since the contract requires them to live together. Ah-young, on the other hand, claims that she has no option but to accept offer Sangs since she has exhausted all other options for earning more money. Soon after, Ah-young signs the agreement and moves in with Danbai to Yu-home. Sangs, Yusang, the CEO of a major corporation, has been living alone in a rather spacious mansion. The next day, Ah-young informs Joo-ho that she and Danbai have already moved into Yu-house. Sangs hearing this irritated Joo-ho, but he couldn't do anything since it was all Ah choice. Young's, and she only had the finest intentions for her younger sister, who really needed her father. Yusang and Ah-young seem to be having a debate about the regulations that Ah-young and Danbai must follow while at his place. One day, while drying clothes, Ah-young encountered a middle-aged guy who was due to see Yusang. At his residence, Yusang identifies the guy as his uncle. Uncle, Sangs on the other hand, seems astonished to find a lady at residence Sangs and questions Yusang about it right away. He didn't want his connection with Ah-young and Danbai to become public and create problems. Yusang tells his uncle that Ah-young is a housekeeper who works at his home for his firm. Uncle Sangs seemed to believe him. However, after departing, he directs his assistant to hunt for Ah-young information. Yusang then apologizes to Ah-young for referring to her as a maid, but Ah-young doesn't seem to mind since she knows logic. Sangs, Yusang and Ah-young get closer as time passes. They even went to a spot together and had fun. In formal heart-to-heart discussions, however, Ah-young and Yusang were unaware that, thinking someone is surreptitiously photographing their intimacy not just at that location. However, the individual also followed the two to the residence and photographed them with Danbai, who seemed to be overjoyed. Ah-young is on her way to a friend's wedding one day when, wearing a gorgeous gown, Yusang was taken aback when he saw Ah-young, who was stunning. Wearing the gown, Joo-ho plans to take Ah-young home that night and they will go out together. However, on the way, Ah-young comes upon an old article about herself and Yusang. Social media has gone viral. Ah-young instantly feels bad for giving Yusang distress. Of sure, he will have an influence on the organization he heads. Joo-ho is even more surprised after hearing this, more concerned about Ah-young and Dan-bai, who reside with Yoo-sang. Not long after that, Yoo-sang visited Ah-young and sounded concerned about her health. However, Joo-ho acted promptly, stands up and declares that he would now defend Ah-young and Dan-bai. Not only that, but, however, Joo-ho has also said publicly that he loves Ah-young. Yoo-sang acted as though he didn't want to lose, then informs Ah-young that he will terminate their contract as father and daughter, and instead, he intends to make Ah-young his life companion. Yoo-sang then walked away from there. Ah-young then inquires about Joo emotions hos for her, to which Joo-ho responds that he has long loved her. When she hears this, Ah-young looks sad since she had no clue Joo-ho liked her. Ah-young discloses bluntly that she just saw Joo-ho as a friend and nothing more. Actually, Ah-young, Joo-ho feels awful since he has been so kind to her all these time. However, according to her, it was much better for both of them to speak the truth. Following that, Ah-young dashed over to Yoo-sang. She said that she was prepared to engage into a new contract as Yoo-sang partner. Ah-young is likewise eager to wait for Yoo-sang till he addresses their difficulties, connection and have a negative influence on the firm he leads. They make the decision to split up for a spell, and Ah-young returns to part-time work at the coffee shop to make ends meet. To cut a long tale short, Yoo-sang returns a few months later and pays Ah-young a visit. Workplace. Ah-young seemed overjoyed to be reunited with Yoo-sang after such a lengthy separation. They both let go of their need by tenderly holding one another. Yoo-sang followed suit. Ah-young accepts his proposal to be his wife. This video teaches us a valuable lesson, is to keep striving for our ambitions and happiness, no matter how rough the road may be. We shall encounter new challenges, because you never know when an attractive, wealthy, and compassionate guy may appear. Adopt us as his daughter and provide all of our financial requirements with no strings attached.